A&Pers, this is Dr. Jones checking in. This is A&P 1, Lab 4, Video 4. So here we are with the color-coded brain model. And we need to learn the lobes of the brain. So we're talking about the lobes of the cerebrum. First, let's talk about the frontal lobe. The frontal lobe is under the frontal bone, and it's including the red stripe, from the red stripe forward. This side, it's got a bunch of different colors. This side, it's just the red and the, is that peach? Terracotta. Yeah, I don't know. So the red, including the red stripe, is the frontal lobe. The temporal lobe is this mustard color under the temporal bone. Parietal lobe is the blue, including the blue stripe, under the parietal bone. And under the occipital bone, you guessed it, the occipital lobe. There's another lobe of the brain that you can't see from the superficial part of the brain. It is hidden inside. It is insulated. If you have one of these tear-apart brains, you can find it. This is the insula. The insula. It is insulated. You can also see it here on this other model. Okay, and next term is the central sulcus. The central sulcus is the specific sulcus between the red stripe and the blue stripe, between the red stripe and the blue stripe. The precentral gyrus is the red stripe. Physiologically, we'll have another name for it, but the anatomical name is the precentral gyrus. It's part of the frontal lobe. It's the posterior part of the frontal lobe. And the blue stripe is the postcentral gyrus because it's posterior to the central sulcus. And so that's part of the parietal lobe. It's the anterior part of the parietal lobe. Okay, we also need to learn the corpus callosum. So we'll go back to our hemisphere brain and a hat on the seahorse, or maybe it's got big Elvis hair. How you doing? So that's the corpus callosum. Corpus, like Corpus Christi, means body. And all right, where were we on this? We did frontal lobe, we did the lobes, we did the insula, central sulcus, corpus callosum, and fornix. So the fornix, F-O-R-N-I-X, is the eyebrow here, right over the thalamus, which is the eye. And then the basal nuclei are deep in the brain, so they're actually under the insula. So on this model, if you remove the insula ever so carefully, what you're left with are the basal nuclei. Now, the basal nuclei are gray matter that's deep in the brain. And of the basal nuclei, we're learning the caudate nucleus, which is the red swoosh. We're learning the internal capsule, which is this white matter right here. So these are myelinated axons, the internal capsule. To me, it kind of looks like an ear. And then the jelly bean is the putamen. The back is the globus pallidus. But if you're one of my students at Del Mar, that's not on the list. So we'll pretend like the whole jelly bean's the putamen. Okay, next we have the interthalamic adhesion. So in the thalamus, there's a right thalamus and a left thalamus, and connecting them across the midline is this interthalamic adhesion, and it's that gold pupil in our thalamus eyeball. So that's our interthalamic adhesion. It connects the left thalamus to the right thalamus. The pineal gland, we have this model here. The pineal gland is right here. So what I've removed from this side is the basal nuclei that we talked about, covered by the insula. Put that back together. So you can see this model. And if we pull it apart, it should look a little familiar. We've got a fornix, we've got a thalamus, an interthalamic adhesion, hypothalamus. Here's our midbrain, our mesencephalon. A pregnant belly is the pons, and then the medulla oblongata. So if you have these two halves together, then you can see the pineal gland. Pineal gland is what makes your melatonin. And then under that are the corpora quadrigemini. So corpora is the plural of corpus. Quad means four, and Gemini are the twins. So you've got these four bumps are the corpora quadrigemini. The top two of the corpora quadrigemini are the superior colliculi, one colliculus, two colliculi. So these top two are the superior colliculi, the bottom two are the inferior colliculi. And together, these four bumps, the corpora quadrigemini, monitor your reflex control to lights and sounds. So you hear your name, you hear a loud noise, you see movement, you turn your head. That reflex is monitored here in the corpora quadrigemini. The cerebral pedunculus are these tree trunks here. Not the white line, that's a cranial nerve, but under the cranial nerve. Okay, and I skipped mammillary bodies. Okay, flip. So those two little green dots under there are the mammillary bodies. And then the infundibulum and the pituitary gland, we need this other model. So the advil hanging off the brain is the pituitary gland. And then that stick, reach it, there we go. The wire that it's hanging off of is the infundibulum. So the pituitary gland is an endocrine organ. It releases lots of hormones. We've got all of test 2, A&P2 to talk about that. And this infundibulum connects it to the rest of the brain. Okay, this has been A&P1 Lab 4, Video 4. The education must go on. Dr. J out.